Alright, so in this article by Pearce titled Cosmopolitan Communication, we are discussing what exactly the difference between cosmopolitan communication, or the difference between cosmopolitan communication and kind of modern everyday communication that we all employ. So some characteristics of it is that sets it apart from normal modern communication is that it gives primacy to coordination rather than coherence, or it places coordination before coherence, which is different than 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 what we often strive for. Instead of going straight for a base understanding of each other, cosmopolitan communication wants for people to be able to enmesh together. They don't necessarily have to agree or necessarily understand each other perfectly, but as long as they are able to come together in some way, shape, or form. It also, similarly to other forms, consists of practices that reconstruct resources, takes these things that we know and these resources, these packets of knowledge that we have, and reconstructs them into new ideas and ideals, and then communicates from that. And cosmopolitan communication is not a dominant influence in the large societies that we see around. It is something that is utilized in some parts, but it's not a widely utilized form of communication. First, we have to understand the human condition and how it will in turn relate to cosmopolitan communication. Human condition stems from this inherent tension between coordination and coherence and mystery. This is because we as humans are both dreamers as well as actors. We have this ability to visualize things beyond ourselves, such as gods and ghosts and aliens, as well as functionally understand how to use our hands, arms, and social organization and complete these tasks. So, in thinking about cosmopolitan communication, we have to understand that this human condition can't be solved, but it can be coped with. An aspect of cosmopolitan communication is eloquence, and that's the means by doing this and communicating gracefully, skillfully, sophisticated, and smoothly. Eloquence is found in monocultural, ethnocentric, and modernistic communications, as well as cosmopolitan. But what excludes cosmopolitan communication from the category of the other three is that the other three emphasize coherence, and they strive for coordination through coherence rather than coordination first. So they effectively say that if we can coordinate within the boundaries of our stories, then that's great. But if not, we're going to protect our stories at whatever cost to our ability to coordinate, even if we can't come together as people. As long as our stories make sense, then that's going to be okay. And that often will take away from stories or cause them to kind of stretch the lines of logic and meaning. So there are three conditions that fuel cosmopolitan communication, and they are democratization, communication revolution, and disillusionment from modernity. And I'll outline a little bit about each one. Democratization comes from these marginal societal groups that are on the margins, that aren't the majority. And these are those their sentiments aren't fully expressed always, whose symbols are not mass produced and readily available as those in the elite society. Thus, the mainstream communication revolution increases the reoccurrence of cultural symbols. These marginal groups are not being are not as represented. The second communication revolution is when people who have otherwise not interacted with each other are forced to coordinate and become comfortably aware of each other, whether it's just because they live close to each other or because they have to interact. This communication allows cosmopolitan communicators to be fully aware well, not fully aware, but more readily aware of full worldly events and perspectives. The last one is confidence in coherence and mystery is cut down by disillusionment of modernity. People are in society are overworked by information on nuclear war and global economy and deterioration of society. So those who participate in cosmopolitan communication turn away from this mainstream information because they get too much of it. I want to talk quickly about two resources for cosmopolitan communication. The first is truth. Cosmopolitan communicators know that their stories are unique and special to their group alone, but they also understand that other groups have their own stories, um, and they believe them to be legitimate as well. Like I said, they emphasize the coordination rather than the coherence. The second is society. Cosmopolitan communication has yet to be institutionalized in most societies because it's not practiced enough to generate kind of a solid resource base, but it still is available. So this concept of society, social planning, and international cooperation are still in the process of being practiced and widely generated. It's not a fully accepted norm, but it is there.